Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is apologizing today after there have been multiple instances of him wearing either brownface or blackface in the past. The first example that we learned about was when he went to a party at a private school that he used to teach at. The theme of the party was Arabian Nights, and he decided to use brownface in his costume. So that led to a firestorm. And then soon after that, we found out that he also wore blackface and an afro at a high school event. And in that case, we apparently also have a video. So let's take a quick look at that. So it's super grainy.
Yeah, I think that's him.
Yeah, yep. That's the video.
Yeah. All right, so I am going to half defend him actually. So let's get to it.
By the way, there was one other example that I just want to tell you about. So the third example was from the early 1990s. By the way, the first example was from 2001, and then the third example is from the early 1990s. In that example, he was also wearing an afro and blackface.
Yeah. So, and he has profusely apologized, said it was wrong, it was racist. He just didn't know it as well as he should have at the time, etc. Okay, so he shouldn't have done the blackface. I'm not defending him on that at all. On the brown face, I don't think there's any such thing. So I like when the scandal was first about brown face, I'm like, that's not a thing. So you have to have a conversation about why blackface is offensive. This is what drives me crazy. This is why I thought it was wrong to fire Megyn Kelly without having a conversation about it. I think it would have been much better, but then they fired her for other reasons. But anyway, a lot of people in this country, I would guess the great majority of this country has no idea why blackface is offensive. And it's offensive because there were minstrel shows where white people would get dressed up in blackface and make fun of African Americans with deeply racist tropes, and then that would lead to violence against African Americans.
It was to dehumanize them, and it led to people continuing their brutalization of the black community. Look, I get what you're saying, but I want you to finish your point.
Yeah, let me finish.
Yeah.
So that's why blackface is real, it's offensive, and why you shouldn't do it. There's not a well-known history of brownface in America where there was minstrel show of Arabs or Middle Easterners, etc. It's not to say that there hasn't been discrimination against Arabs. Even the KKK used to talk about Turks, so that's me, Muslims, etc. But they didn't do it in brownface. So it's just a different thing. And I think maybe you think I'm splitting hairs, and that's fair. But I think that we have to realize why it's offensive, and then not get carried away and saying no, don't ever get dressed up as a minority of any sort. Are you gonna criticize the Japanese for doing whiteface in their theater? So it kind of depends. It depends on the history and the context.
Yeah, look, it does depend on it. And I get what you're saying, because you're right in that brownface doesn't have the disgusting history that you have with the black community and minstrel shows and all that. But Brooke said something in response to this story yesterday when the first instance of brownface came up. And I think that it's a really great, concise way to help people understand why it's offensive. People of color have to constantly consider their behavior and how they carry themselves in public just so they don't make white people uncomfortable, right? So think about it from the perspective of someone who is Arab or someone who is Muslim, right? So there are all these stereotypes out there about them, all these thoughts about them. And so in order to make people, incredibly sensitive people who buy into those stereotypes comfortable, they have to be very measured in their public behavior at all times. They always have to consider how we feel about things. And so I don't think it's asking too much for white people to consider how their actions and their depictions of people of color impact others.
No,
do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course I do, and I think that's fair. But there just isn't the same history with it. So it's not to say that Arabs and Muslims and etc. and Middle Easterners have not been discriminated against in America or in Canada. They have, but not through minstrel shows and not through brownface. And so
yeah, I think
like some people were saying you're not allowed to dress up as any part of their costumes. And
yeah, so
to
I
me,
agree
I'm
with
like,
you on that.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
like, so
there was an example.
there's a lot of history, for example, and even the cartoons used to do it. I know this. I keep bringing it back to me just because I know, and I could freely say I don't mind, right? Of people putting on fezzes like Turks used to, right? Mm-hmm. I don't care about that at all. So because people didn't get killed because somebody put on a fez and did racist stereotypes. That was a thing that didn't happen in America.
Yeah, I think there's just so many different issues at play. So just to respond to the brownface thing again, it doesn't have the same history as blackface, but it's still offensive. So I
wouldn't recommend doing it today.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. If someone if some public figure, and I remember back in the day, there were some sports teams that did this and they got in trouble. If they do like the thing with the eyes, right?
For Asians?
For Asians, right?
Yeah.
People got upset about that. The Asian community found that offensive, right? And so instead of saying like, oh, it doesn't have the same history, let's not make a big deal about it. If they find it offensive, I think it's important to like just listen to their perspective. But
I won't listen.
Okay,
of course you listen.
Hold on. The third thing we're talking about is something I completely agree with you on, and it has to do with Justin Trudeau and his family got a lot of heat. I didn't know about this until today. They got heat because when they were visiting India, they wore
traditional Indian outfits.
Yeah, traditional Indian outfits. And so I'm gonna be honest about something because I feel like this is one day gonna come back and haunt me, even though I didn't do anything wrong. Like I've worn an Indian sari when I went to Washington, D.C. for an Indian political event. And
that's nuts. You see, that's what I'm talking about.
I know, but here's the thing, like Praveen, who works with us and is Indian, let me borrow that. I went with her and she's like, here's my sari from my wedding.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I thought the criticism of him for wearing a traditional Indian outfit when he visited India is mental. He's trying to pay respect so white people can't wear saris? That's crazy talk. No, of course you can wear saris. That's more respectful than it is harmful. So if some South Asians say, well, I find that offensive, okay, we can have a conversation about it, but you don't speak for all South Asians. And so because one person or a number of people find it offensive doesn't mean no one is allowed to do it.
Yeah, it really depends on what the intention is, right? So if the intention is to honor and celebrate the culture, I think that's important. But if the intention is to mock or dehumanize a group of people, well, then that's super significant. And
100%.
I think intent matters.
Yeah, and so look, the Arabian Nights one, it looks like they had a costume party. I don't care. I don't think it was meant to mock anyone. When he puts on the afro and the blackface, it looks more like mocking. It's a bigger problem, right? Context matters. So when you wear a sari or some other traditional outfit out of respect, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.